One of the biggest differences between first species and second species counterpoint is the allowance of dissonances. If you recall, no dissonant intervals were allowed in first species. Dissonant intervals are allowed in second species in certain locations. The first half note of each measure must be consonant with the cantus firmus. The second half note of each measure may be consonant with the cantus firmus or a dissonant passing tone. Here's an example of the second half note forming a consonance with the cantus firmus. Here's an example of the second half note forming a dissonance with the cantus firmus. If the second half note is dissonant, it must be a dissonant passing tone. A passing tone is a non-chord tone that occurs between two chord tones, and which is approached and left by stepwise motion in the same direction. In this example, C is the dissonant passing tone. It enters the dissonant seventh by a step from D to C, and it leaves the dissonant seventh by a step in the same direction from C to B. The second half note is the perfect place for the dissonance, since the third beat is metrically weaker than the first. The tension from the dissonance on a weaker beat creates a greater pull towards the resolution of the consonants on the strong beat. When we hear a dissonant passing tone, our ear desires the continued motion to the resolution, and this is why stepwise motion is used. Unisons were not allowed in the middle of a first species exercise because a unison on a strong beat is extremely stable. Unisons are allowed in the middle of a second species exercise, but only on the weak beats. Writing a unison on a weak beat slightly reduces its stability. Even though they are allowed, they should only be used on rare occasions. The same interval may not occur on the first beat of more than 3 consecutive measures. In the following example, we see 4 consecutive measures that begin with sixths. This is not good writing. It lacks independence of melodic lines, since the voices form the same interval on every strong beat. The overall effect of this example would create the following impression for the listener. Although the occasional repeated pitch was allowed in the counterpoint voice of a first species exercise, repeated pitches are not allowed in second species. This is because 2 half notes repeated within the same measure are equivalent to a whole note. The result would therefore be no different from a first species exercise. For the same reason, ties are not allowed. It is preferable for the apex to coincide with the downbeat of the measure, since this is the strong pulse. Due to an increase in the number of notes in second species, you may write one secondary high point. This may occur either before or after the primary apex.